Hi. So, after a couple of days of not having internet connection, which basically means had I done a video, I couldn't upload it anyway, I figured that I'm going to do this video and I'm putting it out on a Friday morning. And it's an interesting tale. You see the title. That's a true title. I will be getting to that. Back in 2006, I had just finished a great gig. I had worked at this hospital in Westchester County, New York for 53 weeks, and it was wonderful. I made a ton of money. I helped that hospital increase their revenue by $730 million in 1 year. Yes, I did. And we more than doubled the amount of revenue they were bringing in for the period I was there. So I'd done really well. I was feeling pretty smug, pretty happy with myself. And out of the blue, I get a call to do a consulting gig with this guy's company in North Dakota. At first, I had to do some work at home. He sent me a whole bunch of files, and I did all this work. And then I had to go visit this hospital in North Dakota. And it's in a city called Dickinson. And I use the term lightly because, well, you know what? I'm used to a lot bigger than where this was. I'd lived in smaller when I lived in Limestone, Maine, but it was a military base in northern Maine, and I knew nothing about North Dakota going into this. So you fly out to North Dakota, and the airport is more like a house. I'm serious. I think it's smaller than my house here, and I live in a ranch, and it's pretty much a ranch house. What happens is when you're going to leave, they pull out the scanning equipment and they set it there, and you run things through the scanning equipment, and then you put away this portable machine. Anyway, I fly into North Dakota. I had rented a car because I was going to be there for a week, and so there's a guy at a little booth. I can't even remember which car service it was. I get the car, I sign for the thing. He says, "Thank you very much, have a good day." He pulls the thing down and he leaves. I guess I was the only person renting a car that day. How strange was that? I found out later that basically the airport only had 2 flights in and 2 flights out every single day. And so now I'm in Dickinson, North Dakota. And there's a little community. It's a nice little community. At the time, I think it was about 15,000 people in this community. Once you got out of Dickinson, there was nothing. I know that because one of the things I do whenever I go to a new city is I hop on a main road and I just drive out to see what there is to see. And so when I got in one direction, I kept driving, but there was nothing except land, dirt. I mean, it looked like dirt. I didn't see trees. I saw no animals. It was just dirt. And so I pulled off over the side, turned back around, drove back to the other side of the city, where I ran into dirt after I'd passed the airport. Nothing. So I said, well, okay, I won't be going far here. Now, I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritties of things that happened while I was there. I will say that I went to the one Chinese restaurant in town. Actually, there was a buffet, which actually turned out not to be bad, but I went to a regular Chinese restaurant where a meal they gave me, which I've ordered in multiple Chinese restaurants across the country, was not anything like what I was used to for the exact same title. It was just, it was horrendous. I had my first Mexican food in North Dakota, and I didn't like it. And that was funny because years later when I went to Reno, I happened to mention I went to a Mexican restaurant in North Dakota, didn't like it. And they said, "You went to a Mexican restaurant in North Dakota, what did you expect?" I didn't know what to expect. I knew nothing about North Dakota. They had a dinosaur museum, which sounds pretty cool until you realize the dinosaur museum was basically another ranch house where they had some bones and some dirt. That was the dinosaur museum. Well, okay, they did have a like one of those metal statues out front where it took me probably a few days to realize that was supposed to be a dinosaur. And they had the musical. And you may say, musical? What musical? Which one? Was it, Singing in the Rain? Was it something else? No. They had the musical. The musical was the story of Teddy Roosevelt visiting North Dakota and doing some stuff. They did the exact same musical every single year. When I was there, they were telling me that it was probably year 35 or 36 in a row that they were doing the musical. Then again, the airport is named the Teddy Roosevelt Municipal Airport in Dickinson. So they have this love affair with Teddy Roosevelt. I don't get it. Anyway, I'm there for the week. The weirdest thing that happened was the big tornado watch that came in, and it got really dark, and the lightning. And I've been in tornado watches before. When I lived in Kansas City, we had a couple of them. But I'm in the big city. Everything here is flat. It got dark, the lightning came, and it was a little scary, I'm not going to lie. I'm in a Holiday Inn Express on the second floor, and I'm just like, what do you do? I'm just kind of stuck here. I have nowhere to go. There's no basement. I don't know if they had basements anywhere else, but there's no basement. If I go to the first floor, I'm still going to get, I'm still going to be toast if something happens here. So there's nowhere to go. Luckily, it hit somewhere else. I don't know if it did any damage. I don't know where it could have done any damage because, like I said, Dickinson was the largest city in the area. I tell you that because there was the county seat that had a population of 78. I'm just saying. Now, it's Friday morning. My gig is over. It's time to go home. I drive the car to the airport where the rental place is actually closed. So what you do is you take the key. They had a little drawer. You open up the drawer, you drop the key in, you close it up. And there's more people than I expect at the airport waiting to leave North Dakota. Fine. It's very early in the morning, something like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And this is not one of those airplanes where it's like the big monster that you're going to get. It's a propeller plane. And at this time, I'd never been in a propeller plane. So, I had to fly one of those coming in. And so I'm flying one of those coming out. So they pull out their little equipment and they run the little scan through everything. And then they put their equipment away. And now it's time to walk out to the airplane. This was also a first for me at the time, walking out the airplanes. It turns out that when you're at Reagan International in Washington, D.C., you walk out the airplanes often. But at this time, this was just something totally new to me. So I walk out to the airplane, put my bags down, I get on. I don't know what row I was in, but I was next to the wing on the right side of the plane. So the plane gets going. It's moving pretty fast. All of a sudden, I hear thump, pow, and the whole plane starts doing one of these things, and people are murmur, whatever, and I'm looking out the window, and ain't no propeller. And the pilot says, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry, but we're going to have to turn around and go back to the airport because we've hit a deer. What? You hit a deer. So the plane has to slow down, turn back around, go back to the airport. Now, once we're in the airport, we hear where the person working at the airport, because there's only one person working there at this time. I mean, there's no other employees in the airport except one person who was supposed to leave but didn't leave, thank goodness, because what would we have done? So the person says, well, that's funny because we just changed that fence 3 or 4 months ago. You had to change the fence to keep the deer out. It didn't keep the deer out. Then we find out that we got lucky. We hit the baby. We didn't hit mom, we hit the baby. Because supposedly if we had hit mom, we'd have had a little bit more destruction, and that could have been really bad. Well, thank you very much. So we've now hit a deer. Then we find out that the next airplane ain't coming in till like 4:30 in the afternoon. But it's not flying back out. So what are we supposed to do? They don't know because supposedly they've never had another plane hit a deer. Thank goodness for that. So basically we had to hang around the airport. Couldn't rent a car because the rental place was closed. No one was going anywhere. And, there were some people had some interesting stories. I'm friendly enough. I talked to some people. Then there was the one lady who was upset so much that there were some other people who lived close and they were going to drive to another town. She said, after berating everybody at the airport, which, like I said, there was only one worker, but then she started yelling at the pilots for hitting the deer. Really, we were going 150 miles an hour. What were they supposed to do? And just acting up. She jumps in the car with these guys. They drive off somewhere. She left her laptop there. And it was locked, so no one could open it up for a while to get it back to her. Justice. But there was this other guy who was there from Houston who found out once he got to Dickinson that his wife had a moving truck come in and take everything out of the house. And he didn't know where, but because he was there on a contract, he couldn't just up and leave and go back to Houston. So he was going back to home to see whatever it was he could see. And I felt so bad for this guy. And other people had stories. Eventually, a bus shows up like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they drive us somewhere to another city. And so now I'm thinking, well, okay, we're going to see some sights. You know, I've been on, actually I haven't been on a lot of bus trips, but I've driven a lot of places. So I'm thinking we're going to see cities and whatever. We saw none of that. What we saw were these different buttes, B-U-T-T-E. Look it up. It's hard to explain exactly what it is. But I see all this weird stuff that I've never seen live before, but I'd seen it in some pictures. And I can't tell you where they drove us, but they took us to a bigger city. Finally, we saw a bigger city that had a real airport, or so I'm thinking. Because it turns out now I can't get a plane to Syracuse. Oh, we don't have any planes to go to Syracuse. But the other place had planes. Well, we don't have anything like that. We can do a connection, but you won't get home till Monday. Wait, no, this is Friday. I got to get home. What can I do? So I'm thinking about it. I said, wait, how about Rochester, New York? Oh, well, yeah, we can stop in Minneapolis, and then we can stop wherever else it was, and we can get you to Rochester, New York by such and such a time. Great. My parents live in Rochester, but actually my mother lived in Rochester, and Mom wasn't driving to the airport. She didn't know where the airport was. Mom was scared of highways by that time. So I had to call my friend Scott in Syracuse, actually Baldwinsville, and ask him if he could come and pick me up in Rochester, which he did, because that's what good friends do for you. And so he drove all the way there to meet me at the airport and brought me home. Big kudos to Scott. But my plane hit a deer. And there's no lesson to learn from that. It's just something that happened. And I tell that story because people have these other things that happen to them at airports. Matter of fact, I'm going to link to an airport story because I have my own airport story that happened in Washington, D.C. many years after hitting a deer. But you tell someone your plane hit a deer, that just freaks people out. Matter of fact, a few days ago, I happened to tell Sinbad, the comedian Sinbad, on Twitter that my plane hit a deer. And he's like, what? It's exactly what he wrote. What? So I had to tell him how my plane hit a deer. And he says, okay, I guess my plane experience meant nothing compared to that. Plane hit a deer. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Now I can get a video out. I got internet connection. I'm a happy guy. I hope you enjoyed this story. Let me hear if you've had any weird airport experiences. Tell me that. I'm Mitch Mitchell. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend.